John Losi as we explore what it means to be present and kind as we do great things. Now, I'm here again with Craig McNair Wilson, and we had a great conversation in our last episode. And as I like to do, I like to turn the tables a little bit and give Craig a shot at asking me 3 questions. So, Craig, take it away.
What's the one challenge in you doing you now professionally that if you had a magic wand you would fix?
Okay, I got feedback when I was in grad school. My professor, who I respect immensely, a guy named Russ Rogers, one comment he gave on one of my papers, he says, "You're like a bulldog in a butcher shop running around taking a bite out of everything." And that's still my tendency, is to see so many things that I love and am passionate about and want to do them all. So if I could fix one thing, it'd be that that focus, and it really the presence to know what I should be doing in each moment so that I get good stuff done and I'm not just running around taking a bite out of everything.
And as a follow-up, how does that play itself out as an outsider? How would I notice that observing you? What's the behavior? What's the habits? What's the?
It's a lot of I think now, like working in the, I'm in my world headquarters right now, which is a tough shed in my backyard. You don't get to see it a lot. The results are that I have a lot of dispersed products. It took me 3 years to figure out what my audience was for the business. Now that since I moved outside of the corporate world, to reform or create the new avatar for my audience, because I see so many possibilities. So it would be the fact that I'm just getting around to creating a good definition on my website about what I do. So that's one thing. And also just the number of different, I love the podcast of Living Life Juicy allows me to take a bite out of a whole bunch of different stuff.
And you do that how often?
The podcast? I'm getting a backlog so that I can post once a week. So every Tuesday, there should be a new episode coming out. And it's a combination of these long form interviews. And then I do more shorter, anywhere between 5 and 10 minute takes on kind of my, the good, bad, and ugly as I try and live juicy.
Now, is that once a week too, or where do those occur?
Those are in the once a week rotation. I don't have an interview every week.
Okay.
But I try and be able to have enough up so that I can schedule once a week. Something will come out, either the long form interviews, which I love because like you and I today, we're going into our last conversation, we were able to go into so many different really interesting things that you bring to the table, and allows me to be that curious. I don't have to think about how do I wrap this up in a half hour.
And I'm going to consider this the second question.
I get it.
If you would think about where you would like to be just in the next few months, and that is to say where you are now professionally and where you'd like to be now and where you actually are, how close are you? Not to the end, but just saying, given the trajectory and the plan and so on, yeah. I think I'm about 70% there. I think I'm about whatever.
I'm the percentage I have left to go is in other people's hands. I've got a couple of organizations that are very interested in having me be their outsourced professional development program. Great. So I can come along and customize the classical leadership development and professional development topics and contexts that you get. If you pull an off-the-shelf product, you'll get this stuff. The problem is it's not designed to interact with that specific organizational culture. I do that. And so I've got a couple that are a couple of large corporations that are, this close. They have great technical training, but they're not happy with how they're going about developing their professionalism and leadership skills.
Got it. Do you have, and what are you doing to work on the ongoing professional personal balance? And I'm one who thinks it's never 50-50, nor should that be the goal, because trying to get to the 50-50, who knows what that means? The amount of time you want and need to spend with your family, your wife, your kids, is different than what another person needs and wants to spend with their kids. But what sorts of things are you doing to, because I don't think you ever achieve it. You
Yeah.
keep working on it.
Well, and I think that even the metaphor of work-life balance isn't necessarily helpful. Most of the time, I'll think of it as, it's not a two container scale. It's at the very least three, because you have sleep, you have work, and you have family, community responsibilities at the very least.
Yeah.
And the myth of making sure that you have all the equal amounts of weights on all of them, it's just not possible. And I think we do damage to ourselves when we strive for that unrealistic expectation, just
Sure.
using that metaphor.
Sure.
I like to talk about work-life presence. How can I be fully present when I'm at work so I can get my best work done? How can I be fully present at home or at my community or coaching soccer right now? Because we have these things with us all over the place. We're constantly at work thinking about how we could be more present at home or doing something with our family. And when we're with our family, we're thinking about what next project we have to do at work. And then when we're working with on a board or like a church or community volunteer services, we're always thinking about something else while we're in the moment. And so for me, it's a matter of, we're never going to get away from things now, but how can I be fully present wherever I'm at? And that's what I'm working on. I'm not good at it. And that's why I'm doing a podcast that promotes being present and kind as you do great things, because more often than I like to realize, I'm not present or kind, and I'm not working on great things. But if I continue to remind myself and remember that, every day I've got to wake up and decide. And so I've given out these. I think these little chips for my organization are inspired both by military challenge coins and the 12-step programs give out chips as well that talk about your intentionality. I've got to wake up every morning and decide I want to be present so that I can be kind on my way to doing great things. Yeah. And when I'm not present or kind, I've got to give myself the grace to start all over again.
Yeah. I tell people a couple of things about the electronic stuff. If you were in town or I was there in Southern Cal with you and we were going to go to dinner, I would turn my phone off. Unless there was a vital call that was imminent in the next hour or so, I just turn it off. Turn it off. The other thing is, never, ever, ever, anywhere does your cell phone sit on the table that you're eating at. It's unnecessary. It can be on the counter over there. If it rings, they'll call you back. Everybody knows how to do that. If I called you and you didn't answer, I'll leave you a message or not. I took a week off recently. I had nothing pending, but I'm working on a new project with our friend Terry Weaver. He and I are doing a book together. I think it's going to be a terrific tool. Simple little book. Basically, it's what do you do with an idea? You've got an idea for something, now what? And just some simple clues, whether it's a song, a website you want to launch, whatever. What do you do with that? So I spent a week recently in Nashville with us, creating the beginnings of that, starting to write it, coming up with the title, storyboarding it. And then as I'm leaving town, I said, now, Terry, I've got to finish the other book. I've got to finish it. I'm going to do nothing on this new project until I'm done writing that book. And he knew that was true. So when he couldn't get a hold of me for a week, and I wouldn't even text him back, I said, I was ignoring you. I needed to get this book done. And I said, you and I have had situations where one of the others ignored the other for a day or whatever. I needed to do that for a week. But don't feel special. I ignored everybody this last week. Everybody. And you've got to do that for yourself. As a Christian, I try to do an unplugged Sabbath. I may sit with my electric laptop, not plugged in, but charged up, and write on my book. But I don't do email that day. I don't post on Facebook or Twitter. If you see a new post from me on Facebook on a Sunday, it's something that I've timed to post later, or the same with Twitter. The exception will be if I'm traveling on a Sunday or Monday, I will have my phone available. If that client calls me that day, I mentioned I've done a lot of work with Chick-fil-A, 15, 16 years. Got a call. I was going back to do a workshop that we did there on a regular basis for a while, for some years, in-house workshop on innovation. And Truett Cathy, the founder, was near the end of his life. I met him when he was about to be 93, and that was some years ago. And they called and they said, the family's been told to prepare for the end, so stand by. I was going to be flying Monday morning. Well, didn't hear from anybody, so I got on the plane and flew. Not until I got to Atlanta, where they are, I checked my email, said, McNair, if you haven't left yet, don't come. But if you've left, don't worry, we'll use the time. But that's because of my habit. I'd already talked to them. They said, we're going to go ahead and come. We're going to do something, yada, yada, yada. I got there. We didn't do the workshop, but because I was there, we had time to do some other things that we never get around to doing. That was vital, that was important. But because of my habit, it's a Sunday and this and that. And I said, I'm sorry. And they weren't even the slightest bit upset that I hadn't had my phone ready to get the call that said, don't come. But then I got to be at the memorial service and all that for a really, truly splendid man. But find ways to disconnect, unplug. Most of the people, your generation, are so younger than me. I'm a baby boomer. I lived most of my life without a cell phone, without a laptop, without any of that stuff, without a computer in the office of every school I went to. They might have had one in high school. I'm not sure. I'd have to. We probably did, because half the kids at our student body parents worked at IBM. But I'm just saying, and whether or not you're a writer, when you sit and write, I use fountain pens, different stuff comes out of you. The relationship of me and my brain to my left hand to the liquid ink going across the paper, different stuff happens. So everything you do is with the same machine, with the same, I tell people, go to Baskin Robbins and look at all the flavors, get the flavor you've never, ever heard of. Not an ice cream cone, just a spoonful. You can always go back. That's why people are so afraid of new ideas. And so I want to encourage you to do the same thing, only because you're such a massively creative guy. I want you to not avoid the possibility of, whether it's once a week or once a month, going to your favorite cafe or taking your wife to your favorite restaurant and getting something you've never had before, because that opens up other juices. And then also, in the same way that we're having this conversation, to do it with your friends. I've got a few friends that I do that with. What am I missing? What's not happening here?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I started this interview format for my podcast. So I want to learn to ask better questions, and I get to pick the brains of some pretty amazing friends I've got.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I asked you, what are your goals? Where are you on that trajectory? And what are you doing or not doing to make that happen? What are the questions I ask a lot when I do my one-on-one coaching, which is not with a lot of people. It's not something I advertise. Maybe I should, I don't know. Is, what are you afraid to let yourself try? Not do, try.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for those questions. I often say that I mark the quality of somebody's questions as a great indicator of the quality of their intellect. And I thank you for excellent questions, Craig.